Yo guys, welcome to the complete guide for using Viper on Split. This will go from lineups to one-ways to attacking, defending, and generally what I've had the most success with while using Viper on the map Split. To begin with, we're going to look at defensively one-ways and walls that I've mostly used. Starting with the one over at B main. You might have seen this one before. It is insanely hard to aggress against when you are the attackers, but essentially what you want to do is come to this light up the top and aim at this a little bit in the middle, like right at the wee line, and just throw your smoke and it'll land just on top of the light in the middle. And when you activate it, you get this amazing one-way that makes it genuinely impossible for the enemy to see your legs while you're standing over here. Just to show you what they can see, if you are standing on this side, you cannot see anything past this front area until you're over here. You get a little gap. But by that time, if they've crossed all the way over there, you've definitely seen their legs. And you can take shots in towards their head or chest. That's where you want to be looking. You don't want to be shooting their feet as they cross over. You want to aim where their head or body will be when they try to cross over you. Just an extra thing to think about while you're defending. If you are sitting with the orb on top of the light over here, you might want to set up your wall back here just to have, if you do lose heaven control from whoever's guarding mid, this does give you another option. So you can raise the wall and anyone that pushes through that will get some of the Viper damage, as well as having to guess where you are on the other side of it, wherever you decide to play. But obviously you can try and hold on to your walls for trying to retake A if they do end up pushing there. The second one is for mid, but also for B defense. Naturally you'll have your Sage wall here, but in which case you need extra defense, or the Sage just, if you don't have a Sage, this walling mid. You want to come right up against this corner, you want to crouch, and you can see this little indent in the wall. You want to come to this bottom bit, well crouched, and just throw your orb up against it. And it'll bounce your smoke right into the middle of here, giving you another one-way to people trying to cross over here. Just to show you what they can see, if you are the attacker and you're coming up here, you can see just under it, so you want to avoid standing here. But anything up the stairs, you cannot see anything, and your legs are completely exposed to you as the defender up here. For the third one-way of this map, if you decide that you're sitting on A, I typically sit on B, but this is one of the options for if you decide to change it up and sit on A. You can come up to this little corner looking straight down, just up against this tape. Take your orb and look at right in this bit where this line connects up with this line here. And you just want to jump and right click, and you'll land your orb right up here. When you do press this, it's not the best one way, because obviously you don't want to sit over here where they can also see you. As you can see, they'll still be able to see right up the back over here. This is only if they're hard pushing up here and you want to sit on top of the box or behind here, where if they do push through it, you can see them well before they can see you. But essentially this only works if you're sitting up here, because even if you're sitting over here trying to look through under here, they can sit behind this box down this slope and see you from underneath. So this is like a maybe 1 or 2 rounds off. They come up here and try sit up here. If they do constantly push A, you can try this one. But if you try it more than once, people will try and predict you sitting on top of this box. For your wall on A, if you're playing on site, I'd normally recommend just playing it straight back here, so when you do raise it, it covers here as well as on site, but mainly for when they're pushing through here. So obviously they have to guess where everyone is if they try and push through it, as well as taking damage as they do. And if they do get control over here, you could play on this side of the wall, meaning they have to do the same thing, but this does mean you've given up full control for this area here. But you may also have someone else playing on heaven or backside, playing with an AWP or whatever. On a side note, it does cover up this door if you do have a flank coming through sewers. Just as a little bonus one-way, if you can figure out a way to land your orb up here through either sitting on offense side, if you can find a way to bounce this up onto this little ledge that does actually have a hitbox, you have a very nice one-way for anyone who's trying to sit back here with an op or whatever. But so far I have not figured out a way to gently land this on this tiny little hitbox. But I did accidentally land it here one time, so just something to keep noted if you can figure this out. It could be pretty good for our offense side. Moving on to offense for A site, there's a generic wall that you'll probably see a couple Vipers do that I don't actually particularly think is a great wall, and it's essentially covering heaven. So like you'll set it up so it'll go straight along the top of here. I could have got it closer here, but it does mean like regardless people can be hiding behind this, and yeah, this is good that it stops them peeking out here, but it does essentially delay the fact that you still need to get rid of them, because with this wall covering straight across here anyway, they could be hiding anywhere behind this wall, and you also have to guess where they're going to be. You could have it further in, but that does mean they can just sit on the outside for you coming along this way anyway. And for this wall covering the ramp here, I don't think it's that great either, because people can occasionally jump up and see who is like you guys crossing down here anyway. So a different wall that I've seen, which is I think it works better, is you come up right up against this wall back here, line up around up here. See if you look at the map as well, this is covering the entrance to heaven as well as the top of the ramp. So if I come over here, as soon as you peek along here, they're not going to be able to see through that at all. This does give them an option to come around and sit over here quite easily though, which is something to think about. But it does leave them really exposed if they try and peek this as well, because you have your whole team pushing along this way anyway. But for heaven as well, it covers any people trying to entry from over here while you're taking sight. But it does mean you still have to clear out this area anyway. If you're not playing for lineups, say you're playing for your ult, you've got your ult, you do want to try and cover this back area as much as you can, screens, just to prevent any uppers or people taking snipes at you. So what you want to do is come right up to this corner over here. I've got two different ones that essentially do the same thing. So if I return my orb, first one you want to essentially line up with this corner here and go about halfway down the bush with your crosshair. Then you just want to jump and throw it at the peak, and this will plant it quite deep into it, so it covers the door, but it does mean they can sit out here or move down here, but it means if they are sitting here they are exposed to like us pushing in, but it does stop them sitting in the back here, so they have to push out into one of these corners. For the other orb, you want to come right up to this corner, pull out your orb and aim right at this corner here. So you've got these two corners, you want to go for the second one and just aim right where you think the corner would be, and again jump throw. And this one will be a bit further out. It does completely cover the door. It stops them sitting at this corner here, but essentially almost guarantees that they will push onto sight for you. They can still hide in the smoke, even though it'll reduce them down to 1 HP, so it's just something to think about. And if you are playing with these smokes to cover screens, you will have to come and pick it up if you want to play with lineups. For lineups on A site, you've generally got your default sites or default plant sites, which is behind the box or over behind here. And I've set up lineups for these just because these are the most common. So whenever you do get a plant, you always want to come and set up your orb wherever it will be. So that will be doing most of the damage alongside your venom. And when you want to try and safely make your way out over to this corner so you're far away from everyone on site. And you want to take where your venom is, up the top left of the little crosshair, above your left click. You want to aim that at the third orb for box, then For the backside, you want to line up with the line just across here, right at that point. So that one's behind the box, and that one's backside. And that'll perfectly line up for them. If they do it, if one of your team does plant it further down here, you can just adjust it by aiming slightly higher, and that'll bring it a bit closer. For B site, there's a few different ways you could do your wall. I have to actually return my wall. And you can play it straight across. So anyone who's trying to entry to site, you can block that off to make it harder to push on from mid. Or you can play it from on catwalk or rafters, sorry. And you can play it on top of there. You can play it right on the edge. That'll cover you mostly here, but it does leave you a bit exposed from this corner here. So this is for if there's maybe an enemy that tends to play on rafters. But instead of using walls, I recommend whenever possible to use your orb to cover the most of heaven. So people entering and people sitting like at hell as well. This will be able to cover most of that. So where you want to be aiming is the little line next to your ult. You want to line that up with a pipe on the right side of this little cylinder, and you want to jump through it. So straight after you jump, you want to throw it to give it that slight boost, which will land it up here on rafters, giving you, whenever you are entering, this covers completely like all of heaven, and anyone who's might be sitting at the bottom here, you do still have to clear this area here, but this will make it a lot easier for pushing on site for anyone who's covering mid / sitting in heaven. This does mean if you want to play for lineups, you would have to collect this again. So if you want to play for lineups here, you don't want to be using that. You want to either use your wall or have someone else cover this area. Another way to use your wall to get on site is if you're going for a really fast push and you want to try and play it close. I'd say aim it with the box on B site. You can just chuck it straight across. This will essentially cover you completely from everything, but it does mean enemies can still push through. But as long as you've got someone watching these areas as you come on site, this will give you the option to either plant on either of these areas. I recommend just plant the default on the site, setting up your orb, then playing for lineups back in our spawn over here. This one's fairly straightforward. You just come over and sit on top of this cone right in the corner, and with your crosshair, you've got a little blade of grass that's like poking up on this poster here. You can just aim straight at it and shoot across, and it'll slot it right through the hole there and land directly on default. If you decide to try and play through mid, either to A or B, I recommend if you're playing for A to use your wall here to just cover off from B heaven, and if you are trying to play through from mid to B, to use your orb. It's not an exact lineup, but you just want to try and run forward, jump, and bounce off the wall. Then it'll bounce towards the door, either inside or out, but it will give you most of the coverage for the door to try and make it harder for them to push through here. For that one, you probably want to have it a bit deeper, but in most cases, as Viper, you're going to be wanting to play through either B main or A main. But that's just a little something for you. Obviously, if you can figure out how to get this orb to land nicely on top of here every time, then by all means get that get that one way going. But yeah, that's essentially my Viper tutorial for Split. If I've missed any like huge lineups, maybe even stronger one ways, please let me know, and I'll make sure to make an updated version for anything that's extremely helpful. And if you liked the video, please consider leaving a like, and if it helped you, please consider leaving a like. And if you made it this far, please consider subscribing, and I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.